You open up the newspaper, in particular the Kansas City Star, and generally speaking what you read about is that there are wars and rumors of wars and destruction, wholesale Visigoth invasion of Topeka by a combination of Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan. And it's disaster, it's horrible, they're cutting taxes, they're raising taxes, they're cutting budgets, they're not spending enough here, doing too much. It's hysteria out there right now in regard to what the Brownback administration is doing. But I'm here to tell you that it's working. It's actually working. The things that we're doing, the things that we ran on, the principles that we believe in, we're turning this state around. And so when you're coming into office and you've run a campaign based on big ideas, the roadmap for Kansas, based on a vision of where the elected official, in this case my boss, Governor Brownback, want to take the state, you're going to run into a lot of opposition. And that opposition can come from all over the political spectrum. But for the most part, of course, as you would imagine, our opposition comes from the political left. As a percentage of the United States population, Kansas has shrunk substantially, and it's just continued to go in this sort of moribund path for a very, very long time. In 1970, Kansas ranked 28th in state population, and it's been in a slow population decline ever since. Governor Brownback certainly didn't run a campaign, and he doesn't want to be a governor who is managing a slow decline. Take a look at this slide here. This is the net resident migration either from or to Kansas from 2005 to 2010. As you can see, our people aren't just leaving for opportunity, or have been leaving for opportunities around the country. They've been moving just across state lines. We had out-migration to Oklahoma, Missouri, and Colorado, and a little bit of in-migration from Nebraska. Now, an interesting little factoid of this: prior to Governor Brownback taking office and working with the legislature over 2 sessions to have fundamental tax reform, Kansas had the highest income tax rates in the region, except for Nebraska. So if that doesn't tell you why it is that we've been trying to do what we're doing, this is a very good example of that. Here's a taxpayer migration rate and rank. As you go deep blue, that means that taxpayers were migrating out of your state. Deep red, taxpayers were migrating into your state. It looks oddly like the electoral map, doesn't it? Except for the fact that Kansas is a light shade of blue. That's also something that we want to try to turn around, obviously. We want people to move to Kansas. The way that you entice them to move here is by having lower taxes and a high quality of life, and that's what we're looking to do. This chart right here tracks all funds spending from 95 to 2015, and as you can see, it reached a peak in fiscal year 2011, which was the last budget in the Parkinson administration. And since then, we've essentially brought that curve down. We bent the curve. Now, there's been, I think, a lot of talk about, you know, how is it that you go about making sure that you have more room for the private sector to grow in a state. And one of the things that we've held as a very strong economic principle is you don't necessarily want to go in and cut just to cut. What you want to do is you want to go in and make sure that you're managing the state resources so that as the economy grows, you hold spending down and the private sector is able to sweep up the larger amount of economic activity rather than extracting that from the private economy and putting it into government. As you can see through Republican and Democrat administrations prior to us, the trajectory of state spending was essentially the same. And once we came into office, we stopped the spigot, we held steady, and we cut taxes, putting more money back into the hands of Kansans, and that started to bear results economically. So this is the next slide here is really the big policy move that our administration has made, and really the stance that we've taken as a response to our decades of stagnation, in particular the lost decade that we inherited from our predecessors. We were able to bring the tax rates down from 6.45, that's what you paid in 2012. In 2013, you're paying 4.9. Over the process of time, in statute, by 2018, the rates will be down on the top rate to 3.9%, on the bottom rate down to 2.3%. We're getting in sniffing distance of zero income tax in this state, and we're even getting closer to the point where income taxes aren't nearly as much of a consideration for a business when they're deciding to move from one place to another. This is actually the real kicker of the tax policy that we that we introduced and the legislature passed, and that was to eliminate pass-through income on S corps, LLCs, and sole proprietorships. What we've come to through a bunch of the actions that we've taken, as controversial as they've been and as painful as they've been for some, we have the 12th lowest unemployment rate in the country. Our business competitiveness is ranked 15th. We have the second lowest workers' comp rate. We're the top 10 for low cost of living, and we're 6th for transportation quality and access. And here's let's go to the next chart as well. This is new business filings in the state of Kansas. This is a statistic that's kept by the Secretary of State. As you can see, there were, you know, credit was pretty hot, I guess, in the early part of the last decade. There was there was growth in business filings, and it kind of fluctuated up and down, far down when it was the rough times in 08 and 09. And then it went from 2011, 622, to 2012, 1,362. That's not a mistake. What we've been doing is working. It's working for Kansas, it's working for Kansans. We have great schools, we have great roads, all those things are true, but we also have a great business environment now. And when Brownback ran for re-election, the first thing that people wanted, the first thing on their mind was jobs. And that's what we're doing.